first question, and these are just more when you were asking about where to find information. Kathy shared obituary, funeral book.
Oh, awesome.
Maria shared Social Security, wills, pensions.
Relationships. They're responding to the relationships. And that was just one example. Excellent.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions for Dr. Murphy, just enter it in the questions on GoToWebinar, and we'll get to as many of these as we can. Let's see here. All right. Marcy Harden asked, one line for each person or family or for total research?
One timeline for an individual or for a whole family. That is totally up to you. You can use it both ways. I have taken one person that I have a lot of brick wall information on and just had that person and everything that revolved around him on there, or I've done them on families. So you make the document work for you. What do you need to know?
Okay, let's see here.
I can't see any questions, so I can't help you out on that one.
Yeah, lots of accolades are coming in. Pat asked for, what was your email again for folks? It's on, is it on your handout?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's on the handout.
Shelley Viola at Gmail, and I've got two S's. I mean, two E's. Two E's.
So if you all did not get the handout, you want to make sure in the control panel on GoToWebinar, you want to download the handout because that's real good. All right. If anybody's got any questions for Dr. Murphy, just enter it in the questions field. I will, yes, and the informant field. I was just doing some research the other night, Dr. Murphy, on my third great grandparents, and they were married in the 1840s in Louisville, and the priest was listed. And this has been a brick wall family of mine for years, and I was like, I had to figure out who this priest was. Come to find out, he was the pastor of the oldest German parish, St. Boniface in Louisville. Well, bingo, it's like, I reach out to Roger Minor and I'm like, do you have these records? And he's like, I've never even heard of this church. So now Roger Minor is contacting the church because he's like, we need to get these records, for a
that's how we
German
roll.
publication.
We ask those questions and that's it. I love it.
He emails me back. He's like, I'm going to put you to work once I get access to these records. I'm like, go ahead. So, yeah. Okay, let's see here. Just lots of accolades coming in. Penny shared that she's used timelines many times, but not with your detail. This was great. Thank you. I will be adding timelines to my research.
They're good client feedback too, to hand that client, if you take a client and just think about giving that information. That's everything in chronological order. So if you're building it in there, you've got it done. You have a complete, as much research as you find, a biography on that individual or that family. Everything that's happening, remember all the events. It's not the professional report that we all see and have received, but what better than in chronological order that brain is going to be able to follow right down there. I expect to see Revolutionary War. I expect to see Civil War, during those dates. What happened? Was there anything that happened in that community? So it's a great opportunity that you're writing the story right from there. And that's also, I'm going to say it this way, there's a book right there in chronological order for sharing your story or on that individual or that whole family. Everything you can find, throw it in there. Yeah.
Melissa, do you have any questions for Dr. Murphy?
Not necessarily a question, but I will say that Dr. Shelley and I are timeline sisters.
Yes.
And I do timelines for each and every one of my ancestors.
Yes.
And Dr. Shelley said, I put everything on my timeline because you never know what little piece of information might lead you to bigger pieces of information. And so don't discount anything. And especially what she talked about putting historical events, whether that is a national event or a local event, because you don't know what it would have affected your ancestor. And when you see it in a timeline, when you see an event and you see, oh, wait a minute, they moved right at the same time this happened, maybe that's why they moved, you know. And so timelines are, and if someone's asked a question about how to, or Dr. Shelley was talking about how to do them, do them on a piece of paper and pencil. I do mine in a Word document. I keep a Word document in every one of my ancestors' files online or on my computer. And I do their timelines. I put a birth date and a death date. Now, sometimes I have information after their death date.
Yes.
Because of probate records. So, and I try to get something for each and every year that they've been on this earth. But, I'm kind of manic that way.
And that's why I said, yeah, I'm crazy like that. But another thing, and I need to start pointing this out. And when we looked at the death certificate, remember I mentioned about him being a farmer? And I'm going to throw this at Melissa as an example. What if that said railroad?
Oh, that just opens up all kinds of avenues of research for this. But farming does too.
So does farming, but the point,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely, because now we're getting exposed to the railroad's records or some institute. And so my Tennessee ancestor worked for the railroad in 1880, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, let me go find these records now, and stuff. And that's a part I haven't dove into, but I know it's there. So also pay attention to those occupations or how people died. It's another big clue that you want to put that in there or make a side note, because again, you're telling a story, even though it's in chronological order. Yeah.
And I'll give you a Tennessee, Kentucky connection with railroads. If you're researching the L&N Railroad, the Louisville Nashville Railroad that came through Tennessee, those records are actually in Louisville, Kentucky in an archive.
Oh.
So don't be looking in Tennessee for a whole lot of those. You're going to find those records at Louisville, Kentucky. So
my great-grandfather worked for the L&N Railroad. So I will tell you, I've seen those records and they are extremely valuable. And if you've got a railroad ancestor, you need to be digging into those.
I'll tell you, as an archivist for a county archive here in Tennessee where the L&N actually came through, I contacted the archive and I was able to get plans for each and every depot that was in our county.
Oh my goodness.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
So what we're talking about, and that's in that timeline in one document. All of that local stuff is not going to be on Ancestry. You got to type it up and add it up. You can attach a document. Anything local that happened is typically not going to be there. What if that courthouse burned? Whole nother scenario. But, and I'm working on it. I'm working on this presentation. I want to be able to show people the life of a document. If you had 2 signatures on it, where does it go? Who gets copies? And this is where I got challenged on a burned county, because I found that people were re-recording. This is during the Civil War, that people were coming back with their copy and saying this, and then they start making log entries. And I thought, you know what? You got to understand who gets a copy. Not just real estate. Who gets a copy? Where does that stuff go? A lot of people will look for census at the local level, and it's not there. It's a federal collection. So you want to think about that. And again, that's when you want your citation and your resources and things in your timeline. So hopefully we've covered enough.
Yeah, just a couple little bits that came in. Mitchell shared his great-grandfather took the L&N Railroad to the Supreme Court and won. Well, congratulations, Mitchell. Glad he won. And Mitchell also asked about the handout. So for folks who are new to GoToWebinar, where's the handout? if you go onto the control panel under handouts, you can download the handout. It's at the bottom of the control panel. And then Shelley's handout will also be on the website tomorrow. So if you're a member, be able to go onto the website under the member resources and access that tomorrow. Lots of other accolades coming in. Cheryl said, delightful, thank you so much. Diana shared that her software has info in a timeline format. Is that a problem to do it within the software?
No, absolutely not. It's still going to be in, the key thing is that chronological order.
Yeah, I use legacy family tree software, and I like it because when you put your information in, it actually lists it in chronological order like a timeline.
Yeah.
And I use the free version, so.
Okay. One of our members, Marcia, shared she downloaded timelines for 5th grade grandparents and found the death dates correct for my great-grandfather on one and wrong date on the other. How do you correct or list that on your timeline when you've got conflicting evidence?
For me, I would put both on there, but I put one of them on there and note and try to resolve from that beginning of the research plan, from the notes and questions. I either going to put 2 in there, which is going to make the brain say, wait a minute, why is there 2? So I don't forget, or I will put 1 in there and then try to seek out other evidence that supports one date or another. What other things happened? You know, where were they at? Maybe they were living in 2 different places. Maybe it's just an error. Melissa, you got
I actually put both of them in my timeline because I tend to be a little forgetful. And so if I see them both on my timeline, that reminds me there's a conflict. And so until I can resolve that conflict, I'm going to have to research both dates. I'm going to have to keep both dates in my mind about when I'm doing research. So I put them each individually in so that visually I can see it.
Can always change something to the color red, blue, or purple.
That's right.
Yeah, so it jumps out at you. But anything out of order is going to jump at your brain anyway. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Shelley, I cannot thank you enough for spending time with us again. We love having you back. Feel free to let us know anytime when you got the life of the document together. Let us know about that.
That'll be a good one. That would be a good one.
I'd like to do several documents just to know where copies could be at or where they're at, you know. So in a former life, I was in real estate, so I know all of those documents, where they went. And it's the same in those earlier years, I'll say it that way. So yes, so I appreciate it. And I am going to, if I can, how do I leave?
You can't leave. You're not allowed to leave.
And while
I'm looking like for the Zoom box to leave, and I'm not seeing it. Anyway,
just close out, and you'll be good. But
okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And we just have a little bit of housekeeping here on the tail end. Melissa, anything you want to share before I'm going to just wrap up a little bit of housekeeping, but anything you want to share before we move on tonight?
Oh, I'm just glad to be here for my first time to co-host. So thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you were here too. And like I said, if anyone else wants to volunteer to co-host, you just feel free to send us a note. I just want to give you all a little bit of what's on the horizon, sort of what's next. And our next webinar is going to be, again, with Cynthia Meharry. She's a professional genealogist, former board member. Cynthia also was the founding chair of our grant committee. She's going to be doing Getting a Good Start, Things I Wish I Knew About Genealogical Research Before I Began. That's on Thursday, May 12th at 7 p.m. It's free. Please share this webinar opportunity with anyone you know who's just getting started in research. Again, it's a free program, free to the public. Most of our webinars are $15 for non-members, but this one is free because we want to make it available for anybody who's just getting started and just may need a little bit of helpful advice on what they may want to think about when they're just getting started as a researcher. On May 24th, we have Dr. Jonathan Coleman. He is the Executive Director of the Faulkner Morgan Archive, and he's going to be doing a webinar on From the Archive, an LGBTQ History of Kentucky. Some of you who've been participating in our webinars for a while, you know, during our Discovering Your Bluegrass Roots in Kentucky a couple of years ago, we had someone come and talk to us about LGBTQ genealogy. This webinar is going to be focused on LGBTQ history in Kentucky. And we think we've got probably the best person to do this, Dr. Coleman. He is the Executive Director of this archive, but he's also the Executive Director of the Bluegrass Trust for Historic Preservation. So that will be a good one. It's on May 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern. That is free to the public as well. So these two upcoming webinars are completely free. Feel free to share those with anyone. Information on them is on the website where you can register. On June 2nd, we have Pamela Guy Holland. She's coming back to talk to us about DNA Painter and chromosome mapping. And this one is free to members, $15 for everybody else. This will be really good if you've taken a DNA test and you're wanting to learn how to kind of organize them using this DNA Painter and ways to kind of help you move your DNA research forward. And this is a new program. I just want to share 5 steps to becoming a good ancestor with Marion Pierre-Louis. That will be on June 14th. It's free to members, $15 for everybody else. Thank everybody for participating this evening. If you're not yet a member, please join us. And if you are a member, please share the society with other cousins, siblings, friends that you know that are researching. There's a ton of researchers out there who aren't a member of the Kentucky Genealogical Society, and we want to be their base camp for genealogy research in the Commonwealth. So it doesn't matter where you're located. We have members in Alaska and Maine, New Zealand, Canada, Germany, Australia. It doesn't matter. The tie that binds us all together is that we are interested in Kentucky research. So share the society. Membership starts annually at $20. You get access to tons of resources. It's such a great value. With that, thank you so much, and everybody have a great weekend and take care. Thanks for participating in tonight's program. Bye-bye.